I'm doing pretty good in that I started my day about 15 minutes behind schedule, so I'm actually doing great now. I'm only 8 minutes behind now. And by the time you and I are done, I'll be back on schedule. So oh goodness.
What's new?
Oh man, this is a wild week. Good stuff. Yeah, a lot of it's gonna this whole move with Luke's stuff is gonna be I'm at a point right now where I don't even have any any grasp at all of how outrageous the back end of the year is going to be. Because I'm like stuff's just coming to me, um, like casework that is like it's all like it just a level up here as opposed to what we've been working on for a really 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 long time, and it's it's
Why
just
is that?
um well, I do know that you, you know, back like when we first met, uh and you're like in survival mode, like you can't even, it's so sad because you don't even realize how much you can't even dream.
Right.
Like you're
Yeah.
just, it's like when you're in survival mode, there is no vision. And it's it's funny that in Proverbs and in the Bible it actually says where there is no vision the people perish. And like, oh my gosh, like every time I bump across that verse, I'm like, oh yeah, I feel that. But
You, you don't have the capacity, even now, you don't have the capacity to do it large enough to give the universe justice.
yeah. Oh yeah, that's something that I don't sit there and like dwell on that very often, but like all you have to do is like stare into the night sky, or sit on the beach and stare out at the ocean or whatever, to understand like what limitless actually means. And so I think that's probably roughly what's going on right now, is that I'm just like I, I don't I don't I don't even have any preconceptions of like what
Where it's
I
going to
think.
go.
Yeah, it's I think a lot of times like you just go, well, realistically this is, and then if you just say, well, realistically it's only going to get to this, and then you put the
And
ceiling,
that's shutting it down, right?
you can count on it.
Because you can't do it. Um, the most important part is speaking and not doing things that disallow you,
Yeah.
right? So it's interesting. I have these intentions.
Hmm.
God, that now that I mention them, I didn't write them out. I write them out every day. Every day. I have this whole thing I write. It's about a page long. And in one of them, it was about writing a book. I mean, we've talked about this, but
Hmm.
I knew I was going to write a book, but I didn't have the capacity to a remote clue that it could happen so fast and that it would turn into a 9 book series.
Yeah.
Like it was, well, we're in June. So May 31st, there was no inkling of that in my
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Now 3 books are written, right? And it's that allowing, I mean, it's just it's just not stopping you from.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going on with you is the energy
Yeah.
is just pulling these in, huh?
Well, yeah, and also just like I I know energy is like more than just when I rolled out of bed this morning, did I feel more awake or less awake? Like I know that's an aspect of energy, but what's what's been like, I don't know. I can't really figure this one out. Like, it's not just enthusiasm. Like, I I am like, I almost feel like I don't want it to be like I'm not having any fun, because it's not like that. Um, Yesterday, or Tuesday night, my next door neighbor, we are playing poker, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to go out fishing in the morning?" And I was like, "Bro, I got like," he's retired. I'm like, "Bro, I actually work." Yeah, I don't know if you remember that. And, and he's like, "Oh, I know, but you always say, like, if you're going fishing, just tell me, and you'll make it happen." I'm like, "Yeah, that's true. I do say that." And so I was looking at my calendar, and I said, "I can't go out till 8:30, but I could probably, like, there was one thing I just had to be on and listen to." And I was like, if you don't mind me sticking in an earpiece just to listen to what like, I have to listen to it at 10. Like, I could pretty much go out from 8:30 to 12. And he's like, "All right, let's do it." So I didn't really mess up my day at all. We did go out fishing, and then what was funny was the storm chased us off. Like, he goes to me, he points, he's like, "What do you think?" I said, "I think you should get our ass back to the dock." Because I don't want to see how good this boat is in whitecaps. And so we went cruising back, and it was funny because Emerson was with us, and I said to Emerson, I said, "All right, over or under, are we going to beat the storm back to the dock?" And I said, "I don't think we're going to." And he's like, "I don't know. I think Vince is going to do it." And about like 300 feet from the dock, we just got smacked.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, well, it was raining. It was raining cats and dogs, and I said, "Well, you owe me a penny." Anyway, uh, so it's not. I am working later in the day than I should be. I'll just tell you that, and I'm staying up into stupid times of the night. Like, when Robin goes to bed, I work for another couple hours. Like, I went to bed, like, this is dumb. I actually function okay this way though, but like, I went to bed at like 3:30 this morning, just because I was cooking, and I was like, I don't care. Like, I'm not tired. I'm cooking. And then when I decide I'm tired, I'm just going to close my laptop and go to bed. And but like last night, I built out.
That's when I got up.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, so but like, I'm so, um, yeah, it's interesting when things feel a little easier, it just in terms of flow. It makes the things that sometimes don't sound like they're going to be that much fun, like, easier to do. So like, that's like, from an energetic piece, it's kind of that proverbial snowball gaining on itself as it's rolling along. And so it's so funny. Yesterday I had this. It wasn't really like an epiphany, but I just was like just kind of like a isn't that interesting kind of moment where that call I had to be on. It's this whole San Antonio, Texas group that Luke has, where he's basically doing like, but he doesn't know it's called a master class, but he's basically doing a master class for these high-end advisors. And in order to stay in the group, you have to bring three cases, or he just kicks you out. So we went from like having 12 people to it's probably down to six, but I think these six are all going to have like several cases. And like, if you're any kind of smart as an advisor, you know this is something you've not seen before, and you know it's totally legit, and you know that it's being missed because CPAs have this one gigantic confusion called double taxation on C corporations. And but that's just because that's what an accountant sees of flow. But a financial advisor can come in and say, well, that's only true if you distribute it all the way through. And so there's all these additional techniques that a financial advisor, like, that's what we do, where it's like, hey, when that money comes across, well, that's not taxed. It's just moved over to the C corp. And then if I can if I can advance it to pay next year's payroll, it's actually never taxed. and no one knows how to do some of that income shifting across years, because when you only work with a flow through entity, you don't have a choice. But when you have the C corp bolted onto your S corp, you now can charge it across. And so then people are like, yeah, but if I take a distribution, and I'm like, well, don't take a distribution. Like, always do what the wealthy do and just lend yourself money out of your C corp. Like that's how they skip taxation, is they just don't take a distribution. They just are like, hey, I want a new boat. I want a helicopter, whatever. And they lend it out and then they pay it back.
Mhm.
And then there's never any taxation on this thing that they bought or whatever. So anyway, it's very advanced techniques that that whole like, I'll tell you what we're doing, but you need us to show you how to do it. So these other guys in San Antonio, I think the six guys that are still hanging out, like they're going to be really good. But I'm sitting there looking at this room full of people, and I'm like, well, if they suck, they're only going to bring three people. Well, that's 18, and I know darn well that Luke only did 10 of these last year. Like that's all he had capacity for.
Mhm.
He was running inside out with 10. So I was sitting there looking at this group, and I was like, well, wait a second. Luke's trying to go get these knuckleheads he's trying to generate that casework, but like, and he already told me, he's like, Jeff, I need you because I only did 10 last year, but that was the most that I could physically handle. And he's like, so if we do like 30, like how are we going to do that? And I said, well, first of all, I don't care about San Antonio because I have 30 that I'm bringing. So I don't really care about how we're going to get them to figure their stuff out. It's great. I got to just tell you, like, I care about my 30. So last night I was like, I'm going to quantify this. And so I sat down and now, Bill, mind you, this is not the stuff that's already in progress. This is just like, we have to have meeting one with these people. And I created this list, and there's 27, because I just had in my head, I'm sure I have 30. I had 27 that were just like, if I told them you need to meet with Luke tomorrow, we'd meet with Luke tomorrow. Like that's how sure I am of that 27. Then I just went through and I said, well, what are my opportunities, my lead sources? Like where will I continue to get this flow anyway? And I had seven distinctly different lead sources that create more, which that's probably good for a lot of businesses to have like that kind of number of lead source. And that's not counting any of my advisors that are juniors that are going to bring like Seth
Right.
or Eric or anything like that. I didn't count those. I just was like, what are Jeff's seven beyond what the team has already had? And then I had another 17 people that I called them on the cusp, meaning that they don't quite qualify, but I feel like there's massive opportunity to do business with them, and they're already existing clients. So it's like 17 people who they already are working with me, but like now with what we're doing with Luke, we're going to be able to do so much more with them. It's not going to be the MSO thing that he's talking about, but it's still like massive opportunity. And then I had 59. I had another 21 people who I'm like, they probably would be pretty good clients, but they're people that over the years I've created like really good friendships with and relationships with that have no freaking clue what we're about to do. That I just have to sit down with them and just be like, "Hey, can I just show you something we're doing next?" And like those guys out of that what is it, 21? There's going to be no less than 10 of those guys who are just going to be like, "Oh, you know who you need to talk to? My buddy XYZ."
Mhm.
And so anyway, I was telling Robin yesterday, I said, like, I'm like, I said, it'd be kind of more fun if you just kind of see what starts happening. I said, but like, I, I've never had a $250,000 quarter. Like, I always roughly do about six figures in December. I say about because I don't think I did a full six figures last December. Um, and but leading into December, I get some stuff done. So like I don't know, my biggest quarter ever was pr was probably 200. Like it was never 250 or above. And like I think we might do that in the next 4 weeks. And I don't even feel like we have this going yet. So I was like, this is getting really pretty freaking wild. And I don't feel overwhelmed by it. So that's the most magical thing in my mind
No,
is
you're doing you've been really through this long transition. Um, your energy around it's been really good in allowing and just like living in the possibilities and the potential
yeah,
without blocking it, and you're just naturally at a higher level.
yeah, I feel that. Yeah, I feel that.
Uh, and you know, it's re it's interesting because it's when you were saying that, it was reminding me of when I had that client over in Hawaii, and you have the same situation, and that is uh, the capacity for growth. You know, what's the capacity for growth? Because I had to take him through gradual steps of increasing how much of the product he was producing with his fruit. Because he couldn't imagine that because he went from online 10,000 a month to 100,000 a month just online. And over the course of a couple of years, but it was a gradual, so he was able to, as the production stepped up a little bit, and you've kind of got the same thing going here. It's fascinating,
Yeah,
the ability to process it.
yeah, yeah. I can. The one guy that I was he is in process. Um, he's in the same mastermind group that I was in with Nicholas, and so Nicholas is like he's like the prototypical like network marketing. Well, network marketing in the sense that he did network marketing, but also um, how to do online sales and all this stuff like in and around like what it's like speaking empire kind of stuff was trying to teach. And I said to him, I said, look, you need to get me these numbers. And I said, I know we've both been through some of the same trainings, and so I'm not playing around with you here, okay? You need to get me these numbers because there is only so many people that we can actually do all the work that we have to do with them
Hmm.
between now and the end of the year. And I said, if you get in now, it's easy to get it done for you. If you think in October you're going to call me and finally get around to it, you're gonna wait till next year. And I said, and I'm not. And he goes, oh, this sounds very reminiscent of of like creating urgency and blah blah. I said, I'm not creating urgency. You have urgency that you're not addressing. And so
Time process. You're right.
yeah, well, so Luke was telling me this story. This is actually so beautiful. I was like I freaking love this story. So there's this is actually a fascinating business. There's this group that they work with. Uh, the guy was next door neighbors to one of Luke's guys. Okay, and the reason that he prospected him was because his wife said, I don't know what they're doing next door, but I swear to goodness, there's an Amazon truck bringing like stuff every day. That guy must be killing it. Like so she basically determined that his business was doing good based on the number of times the Amazon truck was in the driveway. And so he goes down to the mailbox the one day and his neighbor's down at the mailbox at the same time and he goes, "Hey, um and the guy can't, the guy is just not very slick on sales at all. And he just stumbled around and got the guy to agree to at least talk to them. Well, that guy was like, listen, I got uh three other business partners, and I'm not I'm not the rainmaker. Let's get the other two guys. Is that okay with you? And so he's like, okay. Well, he had no idea what his neighbor was making. And turned out the neighbor was making like many millions of dollars a year. Okay. Like they're living in a neighborhood where like probably everyone in there's making 200,000 or less. And this guy's just like cranking, but they just like the neighborhood, so they stay there. And it turns out that he does like I think it's skin grafts, maybe some type of grafts in medical sales.
Mhm.
But he and his three partners figured out that they were all doing good business, and they made like a little conglomerate, and they went to the company, and so they're like an intermediary, like basically distribution team for that larger company. And so they get price breaks, but then they hire people to go do the work they were doing in medical sales, and then they just are an in between that just is just making millions and millions and millions of dollars. And so they're a little bit
Fascinating.
yeah, but they're a little bit nervous that it won't last forever. And it's like, okay, because it is pretty specific. And so then Luke's position on that was like, then you better make your money count right now. And that's why the guy while he was buying stuff, they also had like, Bill, it's crazy. They had like $10 million just sitting in the bank. Like they just were like, we were it's almost like they were afraid that it was going to keep working, so they just sat with money in the bank. And so hilarious thing is that the first two guys that get introduced by the neighbor, they jump right in bed. They're like, "Let's go. You're going to save me $1 million in taxes. You freaking just show me how." And the neighbor gets into about October time frame and realizes that his buddies who he introduced are going to save like $1 million a piece, and he's like feeling like the dumbass, and he's like, "I want you to help me," and they're like, "Too late." And he's like, "I will pay triple the fees." And Luke goes, "Well, okay, I guess I can let you." They basically charge him triple the fees to get in the door. And but the fourth partner just feels like a total dumbass because he watched his three partners all save like $1 million plus in taxes. I think all in, Luke said it was a total of $5 million of savings between the three guys, and
Wow.
the other guy just paid full ticket, and he's just like, I should probably sit down with you guys, and the three partners said, well, here's the funny part. You don't have a choice anymore. We overrule you, and you have to sit with him. So anyway, but it's just we're not even getting into that kind of stuff because that one case for this guy who barely even knew how to prospect because he knew how to plug him into Luke. I mean, it was I I don't know, four or $500,000 of total rev probably for Luke and this guy. And they're just starting like because that's the thing. Once you start saving the people that kind of money, they have to warehouse the money. And if you just save them that kind of money, Luke's like, Jeff, you have to believe this. I don't care who they've been working with. If all of a sudden we come in and save them like freaking crazy amounts of tax money, they just sit there and they're like, what else can you tell us that's a good idea? And he's like, so maybe you won't get all their assets. He goes, it doesn't matter. Like we will almost always manage some portion of their
You get
assets.
their attention for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So it's pretty crazy, Bill, because everything that I have, like when I said we would do like probably the biggest, well, we will do the biggest quarter. Like June's pretty much a wrap, but July, August, September, that'll easily be my biggest quarter. It's guaranteed already. Um, but what's stupid about that is these aren't even the right cases yet. Like like we're gonna do all that with just the most silly low
Yeah.
hanging fruit. Um, Yeah, and also one other thing that I just will tell you that was really fascinating this week is um well, it's actually a couple things. You and I have been talking a lot about AI, but if you're trying to use it, like not just like I kind of use it here and there, but if you're trying to use it like all the time in your business, you very quickly realize like there's no way I can't keep finding more ways to use it. Like this is just it's just makes too much sense. The arrangement I have through Philadelphia, that ain't coming anytime soon. And they will fight me tooth and nail on that all the way. Whereas Luke just told me, hey, just so you guys know, we bought we just bought the AI plugin for Teams so that like I paid for the license for all you guys so that like he's like I want you guys just to keep feeding all this stuff back into it and like so like Luke totally gets like how helpful this can be. So between the AI component, we just got the final numbers on the trip for that Anthony's doing and like you know his number two life sales guy isn't in his top 30. So I'm like I'm not mad. I'm just like I'm just baffled, and I'm not going to be here anyway, so it doesn't matter. But it's just like the writing is so clearly on the wall of like this is a great spot to do business if you want to not expand. Like it was expansion beyond Dan
Hmm.
and Guardian, and just like what you said, like it took me a while to get it and own it of like this idea of like hey things change and the expansion like you just got to keep working towards that but it's as much as it was like very hard for me at first it's like equally easy now because I'm just like hey you know what like I had my one-on-one with Anthony the other day and it was just kind of like it was just so weird dude he was just like you could tell energetically that he was completely out on his expansion, like his new agency piece. You could freaking feel that he had me on the calendar and like let's go ahead and punch this ticket. And he was nice and he's still my friend and everything like that. But he was just like, so how can I help you? And I was just like, no, that's not what I need in my life anymore. Like I need people around me who are like here's how I'm gonna help you. Like I need more proactivity around like let's get this show on the road and
Where was the other agency located?
the one that I was with.
No, the one that Anthony just took over.
It was right next door. It was a Philadelphia agency right next door. Yeah, they were it was like his closest agency. And then that guy got brought up to be like really high up at Mass in-house. Um, which is kind of wild. I would really secretly love to know what deal they gave him for him to give up what he had because what he had was really good.
Yeah.
And I mean his agency was small, has like 60 people, but he has some of the top people in the whole country in that agency. Like they have like four producers that are bananas. And anyway, it's just wild though how things play out. Like I feel so much peace about it. That being said, I did kind of give Luke a laundry list yesterday of these are things that you and I have to nail down. Like we've been talking about it, but we don't have anything solid around it. So I told him I was like, look, we straight up have to have a standing one-to-one meeting if we have to move around, whatever. But like it shouldn't be like hard for us to meet. Like, and he's already told me like, no, I want to meet every week. And I was like, all right, well, we're getting a standing meeting because otherwise like you get 10 days in between, and I want to have rhythm there. He was funny. He was like, "Well, what's the date you're moving over?" That's more for you than it is for me. So you have a target. And I was like, "Well, that's cute, Luke, but it's for you too, and I don't know." And he's like, "Well, you need to really nail that down." I was like, "Well, uh, I can't give you that number because uh, I I know when it roughly will be. It will roughly be the first week of August. That's roughly when it'll be. But I can't give you a date because when Mass puts the check in my hand, then I literally send the email like and call Anthony that day.
Uh-huh.
But that's gonna probably be like August 5th or something like that. And then I told him there's some things around what um, I'm just going to use the term that they always use. They call it EAP, which is basically like I make the money that I make on my commissions, but then there's like a bonus that we get at the end of the year or at the end of the month. And the bonus, they call it EAP, they call it AAA. It doesn't really matter what it's called. I just refer to it from here on out as my bonus piece.
Hmm.
And that bonus piece is like you create what that is. Okay, so if I do a certain amount of production, like it's on a sliding scale. So I always know like my bonus will be, let's just say 25% or 30% of what my total commissions are. So if I make 10, I know I'm going to get another three and on top of that at the end of the month. Luke's arrangements with his carriers are not 25s and 30s. They're more like 50s and 60s. And uh and I know that, but he and I have to have a discussion around like how that's going to actually go because he sort of made it sound like, well, it's according to the grid. And I was like,
What's the
yeah,
gr-
there that sliding scale. So like
Oh yeah.
if you look on the grid, you can be like, well, if you're doing this amount of production, then you get this much. But I think what I'm going to tell him is we both know where I'm going to be on the grid, which is going to be at the top. Like that's why I'm here. Like that I'm here because I'm going to go to the top of the grid. So I think I'm going to tell him that over the next 12 months, like that's what I want to get paid at anyway, since that's where I'm going. And that if I don't perform at the 12-month mark, you go ahead and clip me back to wherever I was, or
Where, where
wherever I
is he
should
going to
be.
use you though in that payment? Like,
I'm
is
sorry, how do
it
you mean?
when you talk about that payment and the grid, is this in the Vistage things and the other things you're
No,
doing?
no, this would be okay. So this
It
is
seemed
this is
different.
yeah. Well, so this is the ideal piece is that I quit Mass. I'm maybe off the grid for like their grid for like 6 weeks,
Uh-huh.
and then I get rehired back into Mass in the New York agency. And so I would come back in at my grid rate with Mass, which is going to be whatever it is, like 25, 30 or whatever. But when I put stuff through, that's what I put stuff through me exclusively. But if I put stuff through Luke, then there's an opportunity for a higher grid rate because he's
Oh,
getting a
I see.
higher grid rate. So he was kind of saying that, which I didn't catch right away, but I started thinking about it. He was kind of saying like he kept saying like you'll do as good or better in this other system. And I was like, no, like it's not as good or better. Like I have to do significantly better. Otherwise, I'm not going to do that. Like I'm not going to just change my system for a tie. Um,
Right.
I will change my system for like a significant upgrade. So
Hmm.
anyway, I just started thinking about that, and I was like, you know what? It's not a big ask. Like if I'm all of a sudden driving like basically he made commitments to people that he could do a certain amount of production. And if he doesn't do a certain amount of production, then he doesn't necessarily keep those contracts. So if I'm coming in, like right now, that mass contract, they told them that they would do $1 million of premium. Actually, more than that. They kind of said they bring like $2 million of premium in the first 12 months, and they've put $0 in. And I'm about to run half a mil through. So so if your whole team on your commitment is done zip, and then I come in and I do a quarter of it just in the blink of an eye, well then I helped you get that contract. Like you didn't you're not giving me anything. Like I'm helping you
Yeah.
keep that contract. So I'm not going to be a dick about it, but I definitely I just definitely started to realize like I was being a little bit too much like um standing there with my hat in my hand as opposed to coming in equal with Luke, which you've done an awesome job of making sure that I'm very clear on that. So I just have to make sure that and look, if he says I'm getting paid 60, if you run it through, the best I can do is 50 because there is still overhead and you're using my people. Fine. But it ain't that I'm coming in at 25 or 30. I know that one. And then the other piece is if I'm bringing in this extra help, meaning my team, uh, you don't want my team like you don't want all these calls from my team because now they're on, part of your team, but you don't want your staff to get overwhelmed with my team's calls. So if I'm managing that, then I'm also getting an override on that. And so, if you're 60 and there's some piece here, fine, but like whatever we're bringing them at, there's got to be something in there where I can get paid. And look, if some guy's blowing it the crap out, and that kind of starts to make the margin there more narrow, God bless America. Like if he wants to do volume and I get paid a little bit less percentage wise, that's fine too. But at least initially, we have to have an override for the team. Otherwise, it's just getting in my way. Like why would I help someone on board when I just showed you the opportunity that I have in front of me? Like if I'm just being completely honest about how I go make the most revenue for me, it's not to onboard my team. I can keep my team over where they are and just bring over the casework they want me to bring over. I don't need to bring the team over. So if we want the team over, which obviously I do,
Yeah.
I mean like Caden needs to be over there. Like if for no other reason, just so he can not go crazy because they clipped his for dude. They clipped his wings 2 days ago about a post that he made. When I say clipped his wings, it wasn't a big deal. They just told him to take it down. But he wrote a really long thing that he posted out on social media, and they told him to take it down. He was so pissed, and it was because in their systems they flagged certain words, and he said the word investment in this. Like, it's like probably a 300 word or more spiel that he went on,
Right.
and he said something about random investments. He didn't say, "Come give me money for my investments" or anything like that. He just said something about that there's leak in people's finances because sometimes they just do random investments. And because he had the word investment in there, they freaking nuked it. And he was so pissed. And I was
Yeah.
like, "You should be." I said, "But that's the rules that we're playing under, so you shouldn't be." So like, and he goes, "Dude," he's like, "You got to get me out of here." I
Yeah.
said, "Well," I said, "We're close." Um, but yeah, and then corporations, big corporations have their DEI agenda and everything like that, and
Oh yeah.
and and,
Well, it's
and
also it it seems unreasonable. However, it's like when you're keeping the middle of the street clean,
yeah,
you want to make sure it sparkles. And you just you've got to when I did that again, that guy in Hawaii that I did, uh, I like no one could say the word cancer
yeah,
on my team. It's like even though this that product, that noni, was very good for constipation and pain, people in chemotherapy. And this is what people tell us. I said, you don't even say the word because
Yeah.
you start talking about that and the feds are in there.
Yeah.
Next thing you know. And the minute the feds come in, they find something.
Yeah.
They don't leave empty handed.
Yeah.
So I can see why Mass Mutual does that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, look, a lot of the stuff that they do, it's like, I mean, there's definitely things that you're just like, it's surprising that that they're not more efficient at how they do things, because the company by design is trying to always cut costs on operations. Like they should ruthlessly be doing that. But Mass, unlike other companies that we work with, like they've got like layers sometimes, and you're just like, I was talking to this gal the one day, and she said, because you know me, like I have to know how things work so that I don't get more pissed off. And so I said something to her, and she goes, "I don't even know how you know that that's how it works, but it makes me really sad that you actually know that." And I said, "Well, it took a lot of research." And she goes, "Well, it's not logical the way we do it." And she said, and it's so illogical that I always just pray that the advisors would never know how bad it actually is. And she's like, and you know exactly what's going on under the hood. I said, "Oh yeah." Because like she's like, how did you know to say it that way?" And I said, "Oh, I'm really good at asking questions." So I said, so when I was talking to somebody, they said
That's one
something.
aspect of betrayal that served me well.
I said, whenever I hear something that's like just really whack, I can't help myself. I'm just like, why did you say that? And so like she said, I said, "Why did you say that?" And then the girl told me, "Oh, well, this system does this and that." And I go, "Wait, what's that system called?" And she said, "It's called the," so like they had like their slang back office terminology, but the fact that I used her slang back office terminology freaked her shit out so hard.
That's funny.
She's like, "How did you know that's what it's called?" I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, "That's how bad it is. Like that's how tortured I am." She goes, "Please call me next time you get into this situation." She said, "Because there's no reason that you should be spinning your wheels like that." I said, "Well, God bless you." Thank you.
That's funny.
So
Uh,
oh yeah, go
no,
ahead.
go ahead.
One thing that is really super cool, that I'm already figuring out is that there's an in-house guy in the New York agency that he is he's super technically good and smart around the stuff that I never can find anyone technically good and smart at. And he's in-house with the New York squad. And I have like a lifeline directly to him, and his whole job is to help me make my life easier. And I I knew he was like, "Hey, this guy Jim Farka, he's supposed to be the guy." And I was like, "Oh, okay, we'll see." And like this guy's been like already teaching me stuff on stuff that I didn't even know I could be taught on, and I am like loving that. And he's like, he knows everybody. Like, so I said something about like, "Hey, here's what I'm trying to do," and I prefaced it with, "I know, I know." This is not really much worth either of our time. I just feel like I need to do this because it's the right thing to do for the client. And this guy's in New York, and I thought he would just be like, "Well, f that. Like, I got stuff to do or whatever." And he freaking gave me the time. He gave me a couple ideas, and he was like so generous with like, I'm just not used to a New Yorker. Like you always have like I mean, like I lived in Philly my whole life. So like you have like this idea of what New Yorkers are going to be. And Bill, I'm telling you, like energetically, this guy is perfect. Like I told him, I said, "I just got the most magical offer from Mass. Like it's literally like they forgot what they were doing on underwriting. The guy has Crohn's disease and he should have been table rated C. And I said, I can't sell table rated C. And I have a competitive offer for table B with Penn Mutual. Can't you guys do better? Oh, no, we can't. I said, take it to reinsurance and beat the offer with Penn. I thought they might come back with table B. And if it's Penn and Mass, Mass still wins if it's table B. They came back and they're like, no one wanted to touch it except for one carrier gave you a standard offer. Like it's not even table rated. It's just standard. It's like it's gold. I was like, there's no way. So I told Jim this, and Jim's like, freaking tell the client to give you a check right now. He's like, that doesn't happen. I said, no, I know. I said, it's magic. And he goes, you know what you should do? I said, what's that? He goes, go ask for more. And I said, no, they told me that they would give him standard, but they would only give him 5 mil. He goes, well, say, hey, you guys have done a lot of hard work. I really appreciate all your effort. Like literally, he was like his own chat GPT. He was like, but like it wasn't the way that I would probably send the letter. But like the first two sentences were just like just putting like kindness out there and like, I mean, this basically what you teach me that I sometimes listen to, and so, so I swear I always try, but on emails sometimes I think more brevity than I do like but he just was like, just tell him how much you appreciate the offer. He goes, what can it hurt to just say, hey, hey, can't you give me more? Because the guy's an anesthesiologist, and he really needs more than five. But we just thought it was going to be. We didn't think we were going to get a very good offer, so that's why I only asked for five. So I don't know what they're going to say, but it was he just I don't know that to have like resources coming to me that I haven't had is just so freaking fun.
Well,
So
that's it's just a reflection of what you're doing. But I want to tell you this when you mentioned New York and the New York attitude, I don't know if I ever told you my favorite New Yorker joke.
I don't know.
The Japanese tourist in New York.
Okay.
He walks up to a guy, he says, you tell me how to get to Empire State Building or should I go fuck myself?
Oh, darn it. That is good.
I don't know if
Actually,
New York's that
actually,
bad anymore.
actually, what makes that twice as funny is just simply uh because you're from Vermont and because my roommate's from Vermont, like from Burlington, and like so Vermont folks, whenever I hear them talk about New York, like they definitely have like a certain vibe about because I would guess like New Yorkers like come up to Vermont to vacation and stuff like that, Champlain and everything. But Philly's funny because like it's like we don't think we can compete with New York, like in terms of the city. Like New York's just a huge, gigantor city, and so Philly's not New York. We know that. No one thinks that it is, but we like that about Philly. Like we just
Uh,
and but when it comes to sports rivalry and stuff like that, it's
right.
it's just it's just like we freaking hate the Mets. We freaking hate the Giants. Like it's just and the Yankees just like get too
Yeah, well,
much.
that's been going on a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but it's just fun. That's a freaking funny joke though. I
Hey,
love it.
before I jump in a couple of minutes, this is, what this guy's doing and what's happening is a reflection of what you're creating. It's matching your perception, you know.
Yeah,
And one of the things I was mentioning this earlier in these daily affirmations that I'm doing is the last line in there is what does it say? Basically, you know, it's time to expand my intentions further.
Hmm.
Like it's the last line. It's like, oh, those are cool. It's time to, it's like how how wide open can you allow? Where,
yep,
I went from my book is written and ready for people to start learning from it to um the Align Life series is written and is on the New York Times bestseller list. So it's let's so think of that as you're going, just like how much more can we open to the
Yeah.
possibility? How much more can we allow? There, it's not against the law, you know. So,
Yeah. No,
like,
it's like a constant what else and what more. Yeah.
yeah, and you've done. I mean, you're doing amazing at allowing it,
Yeah.
and the results speak for themselves. And it goes. It's far better than goals and plans, and you know. In fact, I met this guy yesterday. I got 2 minutes. I met this guy yesterday. I was talking to him, and he has a lot of anxiety, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, well, you know, you want to get rid of the anxiety, sit down with me for a while. I can show you how to do that. I mean, just anxiety over whether he handled something right and all this. And I'm thinking, man, what a different world
Yeah.
where
That's true.
people are stuck. I mean, it's yeah, but be with that, just the allowing. I mean, you're doing it. Just how do you just open up further to even further, whatever it may be?
Yeah.
Just let it
No,
come.
I feel that. Hey, I put a really long ass reply on one of your Facebook posts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to look at it.
I don't remember which specific one it was. Um, I forget what you were talking about. Um, it's not occurring to me right this second. I can't remember. But whatever it was you were saying, um, I just felt compelled to be like, like it's like, well, results are hard to argue with. And then I just kind of gave like an anecdote of, I didn't go into like how I had the daddy tax on the food and then I abolished the daddy tax. But I referenced how, but I did reference how like you challenged me, and then I did this shift with my family, and then like how like I wasn't like choking on my food anymore or whatever. And so like I just wanted to let you
Oh,
know
cool.
so
I'll
you
take a look at it.
because you might even just snag that and chuck it into Chat GP or
Yeah.
into your AI. So I just
Oh,
want to
I'll
tell you
check
that.
it out. Hey,
All right,
I've got
pal.
to jump. I've got to go to that interview. I'll talk to you next week. Thanks for meeting with me on Thursday. I appreciate it.
No worries, my friend.
All
See ya.
right, Jeff. Bye bye.
Bye.